Cotton. Okame Kick.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story of what if Madara reveals himself to be Naruto's grandfather. He infused both his cells and Hashirama's cells into Naruto. Naruto becomes strong as a result, awakening the Sharingan and later the Rinnegan. Before we start, thank you for the support, it really means a lot to me. Don't forget to subscribe and leave like and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic and support them for making this fanfic. And now let us start. Chapter 37. Emotions. When life has a purpose, you have a reason to live, you have a reason to hold on to life no matter what fate throws into your path. There are many people who've strived for their goals, dreams, but when fate wishes it, she could turn your world upside down and make you question your own existence in this wretched world. What Samui did understand was that everyone had a role to play. It didn't matter who wrote the scripts, but discovering our roles and taking them up was something important. When you knew your role, you begin to understand yourself better. However, Samui wasn't the one who liked acting up on a script written by someone else. She liked to believe that her life was her own choice and her destiny would be her own choice. This life was full of many scenes to stage your own play, and there was always an audience to watch, and they will either be happy with you or jeer at you. This was one stage that she'd chosen to take, a stage she'd chosen to make her own existence useful. Though not many would know of her own role in this world, she was content with it. As long as she knew it in her heart that she had played her role, she had run her race, there was nothing else that would fulfill her heart more. This stage she'd chosen wasn't a small one. It was big and carried much more weight, it required more of her physical strength and mental strength. But that was not a problem to her. She had made her choice, and that choice is the one that brought her about to this place. Samui slowly walked into the dark hall within the palace of Naruto. Even though darkness reigned within the walls of the palace, Samui knew where to put her foot on. This ground, this floor, she knew it. Even if she was blindsided, she would still walk towards the predetermined destination. Samui reached her destination, and sat down on the feet of the empty throne. No second later, Naruto appeared on his holly throne, sitting comfortably, back comfortable pressed against the throne. His lone visible Sharingan glowing crimson as he stared down at the blonde woman before him. You are recovering well. I'd thought that it would take much more time for you to recover, Samui spoke, not directly looking at Naruto. Her eyes lingered about the darkness that reigned supreme around her. She'd become used to it now that it no longer bothered her. Sometimes she always liked to look around because she felt that there were things lingering around in the darkness. It was mysterious, and beyond anything she could define. She was certain that there were small creatures, flying about the hall whenever Naruto turned off the lights. My body isn't something that you can understand, Samui. I've some difficulties reading into it. It is a deep hole that is full of mysterious things that are peculiar and interesting, and yet I find no need to unravel all the mysteries, Naruto responded, his tone soft, something that had never been felt on his tone before. If you hadn't killed Orochimaru, he no doubt would be more than willing to study it for you, Samui responded, a small smile flickering through her face. Though she had never met the dead Sannin, she had been told enough that he liked experimenting and would no doubt love studying a body that is like Naruto's, especially when it holds so many secrets. Are you attempting to humor me? Naruto asked, the calmness of his tone wasn't anything new to Samui. Maybe, the blonde-haired woman didn't deny it. It must be boring for you being stuck here. I would have lost it already if I was stuck in such a place. It is indeed a little boring, but it is no bother at all. While I recover, I've been keeping my body asleep in the chamber. But there is no longer a need for that. Though I've yet to fully recover, the progress is acceptable, so I've deemed sleep no longer a necessity, Naruto responded quietly. Still, you aren't going to show yourself to anyone at this stage. If word got out that you are weakened, those outside the Imperial Kingdom will no doubt grow bold. Samui, her eyes were now fixed at his hypnotic left eye. It would be a problem if his current situation got out. It wasn't that she feared for Naruto, no, she feared for those who would dare attack him. He may be weak, but he was still Uchiha Naruto. I can still protect the country below us. However, given my current state, no mercy would be shown to any who would dare attempt something of that nature, Naruto said, all softness in his tone all but gone. His eye gained a dangerous glint as he spoke. This is what Samui feared, and she prayed that it never came to that. I've no doubt you can protect your country. However, the safety of Kumogakure will be at risk. If I chooses to fight you, I can't protect it from you, and neither can the Raikage or killer be. Your loyalty to your village never ceases to amaze me, Naruto said, his left eye gaining a glint that Samui could not define. What is it that you wish to see me for? I summoned you because you called. Maybe I just came to cheer you up or offer you some company, and being here is kind of cool, Samui responded, looking away from Naruto. That is not why you are here, but it matters not. What should I do about Yugao? Why did you decide to leave her at Konoha? Samui responded with a question of her own. I left her there because I knew she would become a problem to my plans. She is way too nice and loyal to Konoha. She won't be able to stand and watch when I have my way with the village. There may be some casualties and she wouldn't want that. Her choice would be to try to stop me, Naruto explained quietly. Then you made the right choice, Samui said, looking back at Naruto to study him. Would you kill her if she stood in your way? If you do proceed with this redemption, she may hate you for it. It wouldn't be a problem if she hates me. I've been hated enough by humans to care if a single human hates me, regardless of who that human is, Naruto responded firmly. Samui shook her head. You did best, she said, and decided to lighten the mood. Besides, you weren't gone to anything with her. You would have just kept her at the Crystal Palace while you pulled the strings from up here. Do anything with her? What is that supposed to mean? Naruto asked with a ghostly raised brow. Well, when you are focused on your goals, you don't look at anything else. You refuse to deal with emotions in favor of your objectives. Besides, I've been here next to you for some time. You've seen me vulnerable, miserable, and you've yet to take advantage of me. I get the feeling the same would be for Yugao, Samui responded smoothly. She watched Naruto take on her words with a sharp look. She was curious how he would respond to it. Although she was able to invade his personal space without any resistance, she'd never insinuated anything like this. She knew he wasn't the one to overreact over something like this though. Would you have preferred it if I'd taken advantage of you and do as I please with your body? Naruto changed posture, bending a little to the left, and bringing out his left hand for his head to rest. He still fixed his gaze to the woman next to his feet. Probably. I wouldn't have complained if you did. I mean, it wouldn't have been anything I've yet to dream about, Samui responded so casually, looking straight at Naruto. I didn't think that you held such emotions. Naruto said in the same casual tone Samui had used. What emotions? Samui gave Naruto a blank expression as though she didn't know what he was talking about. Naruto merely smiled at her. Nothing, he answered with a wave of his right hand. Speak your mind. What do you want with Yugito? It has been bothering her since he'd not told her anything about the matter and Yugito wasn't saying anything concrete. She could only guess that Naruto was only laying the foundations. You already have me, why do you need another blonde? I want nothing from her, Naruto responded calmly. She just seemed to be a sad little thing. A part of me wants to help her, perhaps it is because she is your friend. Would another reason be that you want someone who I could talk to with issues regarding my relations with you so that I don't always come here to bother you when you want to be alone? Samui asked, staring deep into Naruto's eyes. Would it be a surprise if I said that I'm only helping her out because my heart tells me to do? Since when do you listen to your heart? Samui asked, but didn't give Naruto the chance to respond as she continued. Well, I guess it will be nice to have someone to talk about all these. Are you that worried about her that you'd come all the way here just to see what I wanted with her? Samui nodded slightly. I didn't want you involving her in your schemes that you proved to be damaging to her future. I care for her as my sister and wouldn't want anything bad to happen to her. It would hurt me even more if something were to happen to her because of you. Your love for her surprises me, Naruto said, holding out his right hand. The lights around them went on and in a puff of smoke a blade appeared within his right hand. The sword was light blue and its hilt was dark blue with black markings around it. Two small black chains were also attached to the hilt. Naruto handed the blade to Samui. Is it Yugito's? Naruto nodded. I thought you weren't capable of making it given the loss of your left eye. I used most of Matabi's power to create it. The Biju was willing to give Yugito a farewell gift when I told it how miserable she was without her partner. The blade will give Yugito the ability to manipulate blue flames. Naruto explained calmly. Anything else? It is sentimental. I was able to imprint a part of Matabi's conscious within the blade. It can only be used by Yugito herself or anyone she trusts. Samui nodded. Anything for me. I gave you a blade that makes Yugito's blade useless, what more do you want? Naruto asked, looking at the blonde inventively. You didn't explain to me what it can do, and I haven't had much time to use it. I'd thought that the only special thing about it was that it could cut through anything, Samui responded, looking at the blue blade she held on her right hand. Naruto shook his head. I gave you a weapon that is most powerful than any other weapon. The sword I gave is not just any blade, it is my blade. I designed it especially for me. Other than being able to cut through anything, it makes all forms of ninjutsu useless, and enhances your manipulation over your basic elements. Surprised, Samui asked. Why hasn't it been able to do that and why didn't you tell me this before? Naruto shrugged. I figured you'd figure it soon enough. However, the fact that you can't use its full capabilities means that you never will. I'd thought you'd be able to pull it off, but it appears I'll have to take it back. And what am I going to be left with? Nothing, Naruto said. Until you can tell me what it that you truly desire, you will depend on your own abilities, they should be enough. You can't give me something and take it back. Let me be with it, it is useful as it is. It just isn't flashy as Yugito's will be, Samui said, hoping Naruto would agree. Thankfully he agreed. Is the anything you want me to do? Go home. My messenger will come to you and give you a file of targets. He will explain everything in detail. You can take Yugito on this one. Naruto said, placing his hand on top of her head. Samui looked at him curiously on the contact but didn't say anything about it. Naruto merely smiled and Samui disappeared from his sight. A few minutes later, Kumogakure. Samui sighed when she found Yugito lying on her bed, head facing the ceiling. She should have figured that since Yugito seems to have lost interest of many things, she would be around her home. Where have you been? I have been looking everywhere for you. Yugito eyes bored straight into Samui's, searching for the answer she sought. The Emperor. Later that day, Imperial Palace. It was for the first time that Conan had been up here within this palace. Outside, around this building was really glorious, nature seemed to come to life in all its glory. The greens that surrounded the palace, the water that flowed west side of the palace had been so inviting to her body. She wanted more than to rush there, roll about the greens and jump into the water and just be overwhelmed with bliss. However, she was here for more important things than that. She'd been at the capital for a day now and Naruto hadn't called her yet. His messenger had only said that he was preparing for her visit. She didn't know what the man was preparing, she couldn't stay away from her village for too long. The messenger, however, said it was fine as there was nothing to worry about. She could only guess that there was someone who was looking at the village while she was here. The entrance of the palace led you straight to the hall, which was the center of the huge building. The hall was rather large than anything she'd ever seen before, for a simple hall that is. On the floor, there was a dark crimson mat that covered the left side of the hall, and another that was dark blue that covered the right side. From the entrance straight to the throne, there was another layer of black mat, which was used for stepping in while you walked towards the throne and connecting the two sides. The throne itself was at a slightly higher ground than the floor she was walking on, and behind it, there were two large golden pillars that connected with the roofing. Between these pillars, there was a white veil that was plastered on the wall, and it had images of a total of 8 Mangekyo Sharingans. On the right of this veil, there was another small one that had the Uchiha symbol and the left had the Uzumaki swirl. Their pillars were also at each corner, and two beside the door frames. Above the ceiling were some exquisite lights that glittered like diamonds, their light shone around the hall making it look like it was clear day. The wall on her right had a rather large symbol of the Uchiha clan that was surrounded by two pillars. The left wall as well had the Uzumaki swirl. Conan took several steps further, and saw Naruto was sitting on his throne, watching her every step. His left eye watched her like this eye of a god, making her feel smaller. Yet she continued without even so much as twitching or breaking eye contact with him. She could indeed feel the oppressing air around the place and it seems to get heavier as she closed onto the emperor. She'd never done it before, but Conan found herself kneeling before the emperor. The action seemed to amuse him, making her feel stupid, and she got up. I was beginning to think that you were no longer going to call me. You seemed to have been busy talking with Gurren, and I needed to make preparations once the corpse was brought to me, Naruto responded, simply looking into the eyes of the woman before him. We had some discussions to go through, Conan said. A thought went through her head and she voiced it out. Do you know everything that happens down there? I know most things. However, I do stay away from personal matters. Everyone deserves some privacy and secrets, after all, Naruto said calmly. There wasn't everything that he had to concern himself with. He only bothered himself with things that were worth it and of relevance to him. Conan nodded. Although she wouldn't normally ask, she found herself questioning something. You've been spending your time here. From what Gurren tells me, she hasn't seen you down there for a few days now. Do you just prefer to watch things? There is nothing for me to do down there and my current state doesn't really favor me running about down there. Naruto said calmly. You can say that I'm content with watching things, for now that is. Nagato didn't do things like this. He always put his hands down and grabbed a spade, digging in with the others. He wasn't socially awkward, they'd grown well with others during the old Akatsuki days. Although Nagato was very quiet, he was very social and talked well with others in those days. Naruto's wasn't like that. Although he could talk with others well, he didn't seem to enjoy other people's company. Why build a kingdom if you're not going to rule it? The imperial kingdom is yours, you're its emperor, yet you don't do the usual daily activities as an emperor. You allow Gurren to do everything, Conan said. If she was the one to build a kingdom as promising as this one, she wouldn't allow anyone to rule it for her. She preferred doing things herself to get it done. Trusting other people with something as big as her village wasn't something that she would do. Well, she was certain betraying Naruto would end in a quick death. Moreover, Naruto was careful in choosing people to work for and with him. For now, I've no interest in doing anything, directly. I'm satisfied with the work Gurren is doing. Well, my current state isn't suited for dealing with small things, Naruto explained. Oddly, he felt indulging this woman before him in whatever topic she brought up. The feeling was alien to him yet so familiar. So you'll eventually end up going down there to act as an emperor. Naruto shook his head slightly. That is unlikely. I don't know if it will be possible for me to leave this place once everything is completed. However, I would choose to spend a few years down there should it come to that. Conan couldn't really define if he meant he wouldn't be able to leave his palace in literal terms or just figuratively. She didn't put much thought to it though. While you watch things from up here, you keep your hands free, but no one will be able to trouble you while you preserve your own life. You can't have assassins up here. Naruto shifted to the right, still looking straight at Conan. It is impossible for something as an assassin to kill me and I don't live here to preserve my life. Though the kingdom is not despicable before my sight, I prefer not to live amongst humans, for now. The leader of Omegakure noted that he wasn't putting himself in the same boat as a human. It was like he put himself above humans. She wasn't going to comment on it. Still, to think that assassins couldn't kill him was something else. Unless he was immortal, then he couldn't be killed. That was highly unlikely though. He was indeed powerful and there were no openings on him. Aside from that, anyone attempting to murder him was in for a quick death. Is this why you have chosen people down there to do your work? I chose people to do my work because I felt it was necessary for it to be so. There are a lot of mundane matters that aren't really not worth my time, Naruto stated. Why do you wish for Nagato to be brought back? Everybody deserves a second chance. Nagato never got his. He never got the chance to repent. For someone like him who was bent on doing that was good for the world. For someone who went through so much pain, I think he deserves another chance to live in this world, Conan stated with strong conviction. Is that all? Conan considered her words before speaking. You've shown no interest in bringing peace to this world. Even though you killed Nagato who wanted peace, Madara also wants the same. Both had their own ways. You stopped Nagato and are intent on stopping Madara. Should you succeed in stopping him, who will search for peace in this world? Naruto smiled at the woman before him. You want me to revive Nagato so that he can continue his dream, but on a different path. You want your dream to be finally fulfilled. The story of the Omegakure orphans continues. You've no problem with this, Conan stated. Not at all. Battles continue to bath precious earth with blood of vermin and despicable creatures taking the form of humans. Anything that must be done to end it is welcomed, even if it means turning the world upside down, Naruto stated, shifting again to his left. So, Nagato is indeed the child of prophecy, he seemed amused by the words that escape his lips. Child of prophecy. You know about that? Conan asked. That was something that she never talked about, neither did Nagato. It was something that Jiraiya had brought long ago. Do you believe in such things? No, Naruto responded quietly. I was merely saying it to amuse the toads who seem to like invading my privacy. Conan quirked a brow. What do you mean by that? She only knew that toads were Jiraiya's summons and possibly the ones who told him about the child of prophecy. She never gave it much thought, but to Jiraiya, it seemed to be important. The toads like to watch me. They can't do it without my permission, so, I allowed them to watch a little about this conversation. Why? It seems right that way. The elder toad knew already that Nagato is dead and that he was the leader of Akatsuki. He knew all along that you were not dead as Jiraiya believed. Naruto smiled, again. Don't you find it curious that they didn't tell him of all these? Conan nodded. Why didn't they do it? There are laws that must be followed, boundaries that must never be broken. Other beings prefer for humans to deal with their issues themselves without interfering. Guidance is however not forbidden as long as it doesn't step over the lines, Naruto stated. Before Conan could respond, another Naruto appeared before on her right. She could however see that he was not tangible. She didn't ask what because the Naruto then spoke to her. Let us revive Nagato, shall we? The intangible Naruto went through hand seals before holding both his hands together. Geto. Rein Tensai, he spoke quietly. The king of hell appeared from the floor and opened its mouth. It wasn't very long before a Nagato walked out of its mouth. He was still in the same condition he was when he fought Naruto. What Conan noticed was the lack of his Rinnegan. Nagato held both his hands without even surveying his surroundings. He was alive and he knew who could possibly do something like this. He'd thought his life had ended and he would join Yahiko and his parents in the land of the dead. But he wasn't given that chance. He had some good conversations while he was stuck between in the afterlife. He spoke much with Yahiko before he departed. The subject hadn't done anything to make him proud of his choices. He looked at the two people he sensed, but before he could say anything, Naruto spoke. Conan, come to me. Despite wanting to go over to Nagato to inspect if he was fine, Conan moved closer to Naruto. She stopped just in front of his throne. The blonde leaned a bit closer to her. He placed his right hand on her gut. Before Conan could say anything, white substance began to spread all over her body. Her movements began to be restricted, veins bulged as she felt something like venom enter her system. She couldn't even scream. The substance covered her entire body quickly. Naruto blew her away from him into the path of Nagato, who quickly caught her. What have you done? His voice was calm, but his eyes were narrowed at the blonde sharply. She will be alright, Naruto said, waving his right hand in a dismissive manner. I merely gave her some of my power. A pair of eyes I have no use for, to be precise. Why? Though surprised that he would go that far, Nagato was a little thankful for it. However, that didn't banish the questions that flew into his mind when the window was opened. To protect herself, she needed it. Naruto said before he decided to explain further. Conan is your pillar, she has a role to play in my country and in the shinobi world. Because of this, she needs all the power she can get. More importantly, if she dies before her role is fulfilled, I won't be able to revive her. Why wouldn't you? There are several people that I cannot revive and Conan is one of them. Naruto responded calmly. You don't have the Rinnegan because it was never yours to begin with. However, you will get it back soon enough. The Rinnegan is what gave you power to be God after all. Without it, you won't be God to your people. What is really going on? Nagato was now confused. This was an unfamiliar place to him, and why would Naruto revive him when he was the one who killed him in the first place? Conan will explain everything to you once she wakes up, Naruto stated. We will talk further once she has told you what she knows. Naruto snapped his fingers and both Nagato and Conan disappeared from his view. Now then, Naruto stood up from his throne, 2 white cords were attached around his spine. I should rest. This had been enough for today. Konoha. Ayame sighed as she slumped down at her bed. It had been another hard day at work. Still, she'd left her father at the ramen stand doing more work. They'd been busy recently with more customers coming into their way to buy their food. It was hectic, especially when it was just her and her father doing all the work. Hello, Ayame-san, a voice spoke, spooking at hell out of the woman. She quickly got up from her bed and turned to face the person. She'd not even heard her door open. I mean no harm, so there is nothing to fear, the man standing just away from her door stated. Ayame found no comfort in those words. Just by looking at him she could say that he was a shinobi. She knew that those people were dangerous and could lie through their teeth very easily. She'd been taught enough to know this. Who are you? She demanded, her eyes darting around the room to look for an escape route. Forgive my intrusion, the man said in a smooth tone, trying to calm her down. My name is irrelevant. I'm just a messenger for my majesty, the emperor of the imperial rice kingdom. All the tensions in Ayame's body fled away when those words reached down her ears. Her mind understood them clearly and this only meant one thing only, Naruto. Why didn't you just say so in the beginning? I nearly thought something was going to happen to me, she released a sigh of relief. The relief was also painted across her entire face and body language. I wasn't positive that you would think of such. Nonetheless, forgive my intrusion, he said again and in a quiet tone. Ayame nodded, waving her right hand dismissively. It is all right. But did you have to come to my room? I didn't want to be noticed by anyone. Konoha's Anbu have been rather active in these past days. Getting in here hasn't been an easy thing to do. Once I was in here, I couldn't afford to be noticed, the man responded calmly. What do you want then? I was sent by His Majesty to fetch you. He said he wishes to keep the promise he made to you before he left. You said you wished to enjoy what his country has to offer and His Majesty had said he would take you there one day. Unfortunately, His Majesty can't leave the country at this time, he would have come here himself. The messenger explained calmly, keeping his eyes on Ayame. He noted that his emperor had many women that he, the emperor, was familiar with, and all these women were quite beautiful. He feared that one of these days. Ayame beamed at this. Wonderful, I was starting to think that he'd forgotten. She frowned when a thought came to her mind. I've been busy lately and I'm not sure I can leave father alone. Don't worry about that. Everything has been cleared. I've already spoken to your father. In fact, I talked to him a few days ago, and your temporary replacement is already waiting at hand to help him when you leave, the messenger responded. Ayame nodded with a smile. I must speak to him first though. I can't leave without saying goodbye. I didn't expect you to do so, the messenger said. You don't have to pack anything. Everything will be provided for you once you reach the capital. December 30th. Capital of Rice. Gurren looked around at the newly created chambers of the Council of the Imperial Kingdom. The room was rather large, but still within the Crystal Palace. This section was one that was completed before the others. The room had a large table in the middle and chairs around it. Red was the theme in terms of color on the floor. All the walls were painted with dark blue. Facing the entrance on the other side of the room was Naruto's throne. The throne was placed on a high ground with stairs placed beneath it. Two pillars surrounded the throne, both painted in a crimson color. She'd not gone with anything fancy when she formed this place. Naruto had told her that she needed a council that would help her run this kingdom as he was not planning anything that he considered to be mundane. Well, since it had been made official that she wasn't going to work alone, the council was needed. She wouldn't have thought of building this place if it wasn't Naruto's idea. Gurren smiled warmly as she took her own seat around the table. Everyone had their own destined seat within the chamber, and they were placed in terms of positions one held. Naruto said he would select who would do what, and who would hold which position, he just didn't inform her when he would do so. There was about to be a meeting with everyone who was going to be involved within the kingdom. They wanted to begin with the future plans now as there was nothing that was stopping them from moving on forward. Last time she talked with both Mei and Gaara, Naruto was not present in the meeting, even though they were discussing their alliance. Despite the fact that he was not present, Gurren knew that he was very much aware of what was happening within the capital. His eyes and ears could see and hear almost everything. The large double doors of the chamber opened and the guests arrived, escorted by one of the security personnel in charge of guarding the palace. Konan entered the room with Nagato on her right. Both were still wearing their black cloaks with white clouds, almost the same as the Akatsuki cloaks. The only difference was the white clouds instead of the red. Behind them were Mei and Gaara, who seemed to be busy chatting about something. The last one to enter was a man named Shinji. He was wearing the special Anbu uniform, and his hair was spiky black and had small black eyes. He was also of a fair height and looked to be in his late 20s. The expression on his face was passive and he walked calmly with hands inside his pockets. Everyone took their seats and greetings were exchanged, but Mei was the first to speak. "Where is Naruto?" she asked with a small frown gracing her features. Really, she wanted to see him. Since the Cage Summit, she'd not seen him or either talked to him. He'd been keeping his distance and she was beginning to think that he was avoiding her. In his palace, Gurren responded quietly. She would have preferred it if Naruto was present in this meeting. However, he'd not talk her anything, even when she informed him of the coming meeting. "Is he going to come down here?" Mei questioned, looking straight at Gurren. Her frown never left her face when she asked. "I don't know. I hardly see him myself," Gurren responded in a quiet tone. If he tone revealed anything, it was that she was not the least pleased by the fact that she hardly sees Naruto. "We should complain about this. He is the emperor but doesn't act like one. He hides in his palace where no one get reach him while dumping all his responsibilities to you." Mei mumbled, a bit childishly as she did. Gaara could only shake his head. He too would have wished for Naruto to be here for this meeting. However, if it couldn't be helped, then they would have to get the job done. He wasn't told exactly what he was brought here for, but Gurren said that his presence was required. When coming here, Mei had told him that this was a meeting for the Council of the Imperial Kingdom. The conclusion he came with was that was to be presumably put in the Council of the Kingdom despite belonging to another country. "Shall we begin this meeting?" Nagato asked in a calm tone, his eyes looking around at everyone. He'd not come here for anything other than taking his responsibilities so that he could begin the path of peace. He'd failed trying to find it in another way, but this time, though the path wasn't yet clear, he wasn't going to fail. He had Konan, and powerful allies, other minds that worked towards peace. This time peace would be within his grasp, this time he would bring peace into this world. One way or the other, he was going to die smiling knowing that he'd fought the good fight. He'd yet to begin now. He was still even lacking his eyes and that wasn't dwelling well with him. However, Naruto had said he would be given his eyes, so he wasn't that worried about much. Still, the scenery was a bit different now that he was only viewing it with the eyes of a human. The eyes of Kami made him see the world differently than these normal eyes. "I second with Nagato-san, we should start with the meeting. If His Majesty wants to be part of this meeting, he will come. His seat is waiting for him after all," Shinji stated, voicing out his own thoughts about the matter. Mei sighed. She was going to have a good talk with Gurren after this meeting. She wasn't going to leave this country until Naruto comes down and speaks to her. She was his fiancé. He had to speak with her every now and then. She was also becoming lonely, she needed him. "I see no harm then," Mei finally said after leaving her thoughts. "Well, best she finished quickly and creates a situation that will force Naruto to come down running at her." "Well, you are in charge, you should begin with things," she said looking at Gurren who held the Imperial Kingdom in her grasp. Gaara spoke before Gurren could respond. "May I ask something?" he said looking at Gurren. "Why am I invited to join a meeting of this kingdom's council? I would understand the Mizukage being invited since she is the emperor's fiancé." "I don't know," Gurren shrugged her right shoulder. "I was only told to call you two by His Majesty. He didn't explain himself and I didn't question him since I figured he had his own reasons." Naruto's smooth voice echoed through the walls of the chamber before Gaara could respond to Gurren. The blonde himself was sitting on his throne, chin rested on his left palm. He had noticed that this was a pose he liked doing these days. "I called you here because you are useful, Cage. Do you not like the privilege of being here, or are you perhaps not sure you should be here in the first place?" There was no underlying meaning behind his words, Gaara confirmed before he responded. "Not at all," he said quietly. "I am merely curious. I only became an ally of this kingdom recently and do not have the kind of relationship Kiri has with the Imperial Kingdom. It is fine, Naruto said, his head still leaned on his left side, being held by his left palm. A good relationship is formed by trust and good communication. You start get well on your first day. The first days you try to form a relationship with someone, you have to first create a proper channel of communication. Without proper communication, both parties can't understand each other and a relationship can never be formed. I do believe that you and I can understand each other to a satisfactory level. I also do believe that my language is not alien to you. I have shown you my trust by bringing you here, and besides I did tell you that you would be of some use to the world. However, if you do not wish to be part of this meeting, the doors will be opened for you to leave. There was still no threat coming from his tone and his left eye just glowed crimson. His tone was calm as relaxed his body language. I believe that we can work well together and thank you for the trust. Gaara could only say those words with Naruto's eye watching him carefully without even blinking. It was a bit unnerving how the blonde could stare at him for so long without even blinking. Excellent, Naruto said and his left eye darted around the room for a moment. I'm glad that you made it, Nagato, Kona. A small smile graced his lips as he looked at the two Omegacore leaders. Naruto then turned to Mei. You are free to make your complaints, Mei. The way Naruto was speaking was actually catching Nagato, Mei and Gaara by surprise. Gurren wasn't because she had noticed the slight change in his personality. For Nagato, this was a bit different from the emotionless Naruto he'd faced in a battle that saw his death. Well, he wasn't complaining about anything. So long as he got to march towards peace, he had no complaints. He seemed to have changed, Mei thought smiling a bit. You want me to complain freely? The Mizukage asked, eyes looking at the emperor inventively. Yes, you said you had complaints. If I'm not misunderstanding your words, you suggested that I was neglecting my responsibilities as the emperor while I hide in my comfort zone, Naruto said in a calm tone. Something that Mei noted about his expression and tone was that he was still staying neutral about the matter. He was neither mad nor amused by it. I will complain when we are alone. There are some things that I'd rather allow you to hear only. No, Naruto said, the tone was just smooth, lacking the usual firmness and sharpness. You made your intentions to complain in this room with all these people present, so I'm offering you the opportunity in this room with all these people present. That is about fair, don't you think? Gurren shook her head. What she did know was that Mei wanted to complain about personal matters, matters that needed her and Naruto only. Naruto was just telling her to openly discuss their relationship in front of other people. It was embarrassing and if it was her in Mei's position, she wouldn't do it. She would wait until he was alone to talk to him. Mei sighed. I wanted to complain the news that you do nothing. It seems to me like you are not doing anything. However, since you've appeared, I can't complain to anyone since you are doing what is to be expected of you. I see, Naruto seemed to say at her response. By all means, he seemed a little disappointed. Conan, are you adjusting well to the new view of things? The message was a bit cryptic, but Naruto hadn't put it in that way so that the others didn't find out about it. I have adjusted well. But using them efficiently is something proving to be a bit troublesome. Conan responded quietly. I imagined it wouldn't be easy. Naruto went through some thoughts before speaking again. After this meeting, you'll have to stay behind for a day or two. I will put everything that is needed inside your head. A small version of Tsukuyomi would be needed. At the moment, his real body was synchronized with the Geto Mazo so that he can recover well. The synchronization with the statue means that he couldn't leave the palace. However, in a day or two, he would stop using the statue to support himself. Synchronizing with the statue also gives him enough power to put Conan under the eternal Tsukuyomi. Within the Genjutsu, he could manipulate everything freely. He would teach Conan everything there is to know about the Byakugan. With the Geto Mazo supplying him with power, even if they only spend 2 days within the Genjutsu, with real time, within the Genjutsu itself, much more time would have passed. Conan looked at Nagato for confirmation before nodding. Naruto sensed something when Conan gave her response. He looked at Mei with a barely hidden amused expression gracing his face. Does it bother you that I will be spending my time with another woman, while you, my fiancé, are neglected? Although Mei could tell that he found this amusing, she couldn't help but give a stiff nod. Any woman would be bothered by it if it was happening to them. Naruto looked between Gurren and Conan before asking. Would it bother you too? Both nodded. Naruto shook his head. Gurren, you've not been in a relationship before, your opinion carries no weight. Aside from Shinji and Mei, the rest of you are still virgins, no. A thought came into his head and he added. Perhaps Conan might not be. She was in a relationship with Yahiko before he died. Did you not sleep with Yahiko, Conan? The woman was blushing slightly, while the looks on the others were just priceless. Gurren felt like she was truly exposed. The audacity of this man to say something like that in front of other people. Mei just found it amusing, enough to burst out laughing. Shinji cleared his throat. Your Majesty, I don't think that is something appropriate to say. He said in a respectful tone. Emperor, Nagato started firmly. Perhaps we should begin with the meeting. He didn't find the current subject amusing at all, it was just way too uncomfortable for him, especially with Conan involved. I guess we should. Just like that, everything returned normal. Discussions about what we are going to do will be held as the days continue to add. I still needed to remove some things first. However, there is another project that has started that Nagato and Gaara will need to know. What project? Mei asked just to be sure that it was something that she was aware of. Naruto had a tendency of doing things by himself, and with the fact that she has not seen him in the past days, he could have started something without informing her. I'll get onto that, Naruto said. Gurren, your new title shall be Prime Minister of the Imperial Kingdom. I will retain my title as the Emperor, but you will still do all things as the Prime Minister. I trust that you will carry out your duties with as much effort as you've been. Conan, you will be the chair of the Imperial Council. This means that whenever there is a meeting, you will be in charge of it. You've watched Nagato long enough to be a leader in your own. Nagato, you are in charge of a Megakure. Conan did well while you were away, but you must retain your mantle as leader of a Megakure. Your other responsibility will be taking charge of all military forces in your village and within this country. There are generals who command my armies, you will supervise them. Shinji is one of the generals within the kingdom. He leads the Special Corps, who are in charge of protecting this capital, as well as doing other activities. Shinji, Gurren, and Nagato will head this kingdom's judicial committee. Now, who isn't here, will head the Imperial Court, which is part of the judicial system. The Imperial Court will be the one that judges according to the laws that the Judicial Committee will create. This group will also be responsible for management of the Imperial Prison. Cage, you are given a special seat within this council. As a leader of Sunagakure, your input will be highly valued by those around you. Mei, what do you wish to do? All eyes turn to the Mizukage. I want to be part of the Judicial Committee. Isn't this committee going to be the ones that will create laws that will govern this kingdom and its allies? I also have a feeling that the laws created by the committee will affect other villages and countries that aren't part of the kingdom. If so, then I want to be part of it. Acceptable, Naruto said. Shinji, you will inform Nagato of the purge once you have time. My messenger will send Mei and the Cage further details about the purge so it can also begin in their respective countries. Any questions before I dismiss you? What of Karen? Also, what are you doing to solidify our relationship with the Land of Snow? They are our biggest supplier of technological equipments. Most of the things that Karen has requested for the research facility in Uzu are coming from the Land of Snow. Gurren stated. Karen is a child. Let her play around in Uzu. Do as you like with the princess. His tone was a bit dismissive, making Gurren sigh. Don't complain when I plan a political marriage with you and the princess as well as the Cage's sister to strengthen our alliance with Suna. Gurren mumbled under her breath. She was hurt even though she didn't mean to say it loud. Say what? Mei turned sharply to face the woman. Nothing, Gurren gave a quick response. What of the bijus then? Gaara asked. Nagato nodded. Conan tells me that you have all of them. Do you plan to use them like I wanted to? He asked. His plan was to use the bijus power to teach the world pain. However, in the afterlife, he met Yahiko who changed his views again. The bijus are irrelevant. Naruto used a dismissive tone again. By irrelevant do you mean that the bijus will not be used for anything? Gaara asked quietly. Naruto had said that he wasn't going to use the bijus for anything evil. However, he hadn't said whether he would use them or not. Still, within the shinobi world, the tailed beasts were everything. Yet, Naruto has all 9 of them and still says they are irrelevant. That is exactly what I mean, Cage. Tailed beasts will no longer be equalizers, and in due time I will ensure that their existence becomes a memory, Naruto responded calmly. This was a shock to everyone. What Naruto had spoken could only be interpreted as he was planning to rid of the Bijus like killing them. That was just unthinkable. No one would think of something like that. There was a belief that a Biju was said to be impossible to kill and that they possessed great power. So killing them was seen as a waste. Yet, Naruto was saying he would make their existence a memory. Are you saying that you plan to kill the Bijus, Emperor? Nagato questioned. This was something that he wouldn't do. He respected the Bijus for their power and wouldn't think twice of using them because of their great power. It would surely be a great loss if the Bijus were to cease to exist. In a way, yes, Naruto gave his short response without explaining anything further to how he would go about that. Gaara merely shook his head. The other great villages were going to lose it once they hear of something about this. They would fight to death if it meant saving the Bijus. Humans have so much become used to having Bijus in their possession that it seemed like they couldn't define what power was without them. You can't be serious, Naruto. We have to think about this carefully. Their power can be used to strengthen this country, and we still have enemies that we must deal with. Gurren had turned her whole body facing Naruto by now and her tone had been raised. To her it was just unacceptable. With all 9 Bijus they could ensure that none of the great villages who weren't allied with them attacked them. Watch your tone, Gurren. Have you forgotten whom you speak to? Although his posture and expression didn't change a bit, Naruto's tone was frighteningly sharp. No one dared to speak for that moment. He wasn't even trying, but his tone just cut through their thoughts like a sharp blade, and it also silenced any further questions they had. Hit with a heavy wake-up call that dropped on her shoulders like a ton of steel, Gurren shrunk back to her chair and sat down. A bow of apology followed sweet. Forgive my insolence, Your Majesty. Naruto waved his right hand in a dismissive manner before speaking. The subject of Bijus shall not be brought up again, is this understood? Everyone nodded. Excellent. The sharpness in his tone became a memory, its hold over the council members loosened. Do you have any more questions? We have enemies in the form of the small villages that have been trying to get into the picture, Kumogakure, Iwagakure and Konoha. Shall we prepare for war with them? Konan queried, her eyes firmly at the relaxed emperor. Leave the great villages to me. I'll deal with them within time. Your forces are not to be shipped for war. Should there be one, I will end it myself, Naruto stated, in a firm tone. General Takada has been dealing with the insolence of the smaller villages. You are free to do as you like with them, but refrain from destroying their villages. Proper punishment has to be dealt so that they can understand. If you wish for me to beat them, I will do so. Konan shook her head. I was merely curious. It is not in me to decide what the punishment will be to the leaders of these villages. I assume since Nagato will be in charge of all our forces, he will be responsible for such. Naruto shook his head slightly. The Imperial Court will decide based on the laws and legislation the Judicial Committee has passed. Takada's division is the Imperial Police that are stationed around the elemental nations. They are responsible for hunting down those who break your laws and bring them to the Imperial Court to be judged. The Imperial Police as well as the Special Corps are not within Nagato's control, unless it is an emergency. You will understand this better once my messenger gives you the detailed file which will explain what your responsibilities truly are. This is why I'm giving you time to return to Omegakure and familiarize yourself with the work you will fill. The Imperial Prison, is it going to be used to jail any threats against the Empire only? Mei asked curiously. That is for you to decide. Isn't that you wish to be a lawmaker for this kingdom? Naruto responded quietly. This covers everything then. You are all dismissed, Cage, my messenger will return you home within the next minutes, the same will be for you Nagato. Konan will have to stay behind. What of me? Mei asked smiling sweetly. Isn't it that you wish to speak to me? If you no longer wish to do that, you will be taken back to Kiri while the day is still young. Naruto responded. He looked amused when Mei's expression nearly exploded in happiness at the thought of finally getting some alone time with him. Before anything could be said, Nagato spoke his last thought. What of peace, Emperor? Naruto smiled at the man. This time, he changed postures and leaned back to his throne, folding his hands across his chest. That is for you, Gurren, Mei, Konan and Gaara to decide. Between all of you, you can think something else. I combined you all knowing this. Nagato looked at the people Naruto had said for a moment before nodding. What are missing are my eyes then, he said. Naruto nodded. You will get them soon, he responded. Nagato nodded. I will wait until then. He stood up to leave. Konan followed him, sweet as she had to speak with him before he left. Naruto had made it clear that she was to stay behind. Is there something, Kazekage? Naruto asked, seeing that the young wind shadow had remained behind while others left. Only Mei had remained since she wished to speak with him. Gaara shook his head. A small smile graced his lips. Thank you, he simply said before walking away. He didn't explain what he was thanking Naruto for, but he was positive that Naruto would understand. With everyone gone, Mei's gaze settled on the Emperor. Aren't you gone? Come down here. Is that a request or an order? An order from the future queen of the Imperial Kingdom, Mei said with a small smile on her face. You know, when we have kids, our children are going to be the ones to rule over this kingdom. Is that so? Naruto said. He didn't move from his throne, neither was his attention on Mei anymore. He snapped his fingers and an image of Samui appeared in front of him. I've been trying to get hold of you for some time now. Were you out cold? She asked in a cool tone. Busy, my real body is within the time dimension along with the Geto Mazo. I can only interact with just this body, and my attention cannot be everywhere, Naruto explained. What is it? I caught some trouble while doing my job, and I want you to bail me out, Samui said. Naruto merely gave her a blank look. I came across Kisame and he's been running after me for a few hours now. I need you to take me out of there before he finds me, I'm spent already. Weren't you with Yugito? No, Isama called her to do some training. She couldn't refuse, so I ended up going alone, Samui responded calmly. Naruto looked at Mei after the image of Samui disappeared. Give me a minute, he said before disappearing. A minute was all he took before he came back again, on his throne. He then walked down towards her and took a seat beside her. Who is that woman? Have you found another one? Mei asked, looking straight at Naruto with a straight look on her face. Certainly, she wouldn't be pleased if she found out that Naruto had found another woman. She was more than enough for him. Would it be a problem if I said I plan to marry 10 women and she will be the next after we get married? Naruto asked. An amused expression found its way into his face when he saw the look on Mei's face twisted. I would make use of my lava manipulation to burn many skins, and yes, it would be a problem, Mei gave response even though she knew Naruto wouldn't do something like that. She was just saying, just in case something was to happen. Do you think you can satisfy my appetite alone, Mei? Naruto asked, leaning against the chair, turning it to face the woman fully. Mei stood up from chair and sat on Naruto's lap, her left side pressed against his chest, face facing the other way. Since he'd grown in size, she could snuggle on him for comfort. I can. Mei said and got hold of Naruto's hand. Is that woman the one who told you to get me the ring you bought me? Naruto nodded with a small smile on his face. You still remember those words I said to you back then? Somehow it feels like I said it ages ago. A lot has passed during this time, Mei responded. There were many things that have played their part during the time gap. Regardless, she was still alive and Kiri doing far better than she'd expected. What happened to you? You seem to be very much lively, smile a lot, and your body is much warmer than before. Its warmth relaxes me, shutting down all tensions. Naruto was quiet for a few moments before he responded. I once made a vow in my heart. I vowed that I would be happy and enjoy my humanity, and be myself. However, so far I've been focused on fulfilling my dreams that I've put that vow under my bed. During my time alone in my palace, I realized that there was something missing in me. I felt that I was a bit lonely. Perhaps this is why I do not mind spending time with Konan to teach her a few things. For my plan to reach the climax, and for me to be where I want to be, I can't live as a human. Originally, I'd planned to enjoy my humanity for a few years, and fulfill my vow. But now things have been escalating at a faster rate than I'd thought. This has forced me to adjust a few things. For now, I will settle to enjoy my humanity for a few years before taking over the heavens. Living up there alone kind of suffocates me, and brings this sudden desire for human contact and to have a few conversations. The feelings are alien, yet so much familiar, Naruto explained in a calm tone. There was so much that Naruto had said to her and it left her with a lot of questions that needed to be filled. Yet, Mei didn't focus on all that. She figured she would get the chance to ask him further about it someday. Why don't you just come down then? We could enjoy moments like these much often. I could be there for you and you'll never feel lonely again. Her tone was warm and just above a whisper. I can't do that, not now at least, Naruto responded, placing his right hand at Mei's right side. This is just a copy of my healthy body. My real body cannot leave the palace and I don't use it much often. Why don't you just take me with you then? I'm sure we'd have lots of fun whenever I'm free from my responsibilities. Naruto merely smiled. I've limited the number of people who can enter my palace. Although it would be good for me to allow you in trance, I can't do that. You are a distraction that I can't afford. I don't know whether to take it as a compliment or an insult, Mei said, a smile on her face. She didn't mind if this wasn't his real body. As long as they could talk, she was happy. When you finish whatever it is that you are doing, will we enjoy our relationship? Naruto nodded. Hi, he said. I've really neglected you, haven't I? Although Mei was surprised that he would admit it, she still nodded. I must apologize for it. I can't say that I know what it is like to be neglected. My parents died the day I was born, and after that, it was hell that I experienced. Loneliness and self-loathing. It isn't fair for me to hate the people who made me suffer, and yet make you suffer. I care for you, but those days, I couldn't express anything because I didn't know how to, and I had little emotions. However, I've acquired an important piece that has joined the pieces of my being and made me whole. This piece also brought new experiences that I can follow. His tone was just soothing, calm, not lacking the right emotion. It is all right. The important thing is to realize that you are wrong and seek to correct it. The problem with many people in our world is that they don't want to admit that they are wrong. Mei said, sounding happy with his confession. That was his problem with Konoha. Those godforsaken, wrenched, ignorant pieces of meat, those demons wearing the mask of humans were despicable, violent he would. Naruto. Mei had a worried look on her. Are you a light? Naruto smiled at her. Yes, he said. You must have a lot of questions, it was a statement. Yes, Mei confirmed with a stiff nod. Come with them, I have time, Naruto responded. But before Mei could say anything, Konan walked into the chamber. She stopped when she saw the two in an intimate position. Naruto looked up at her and smiled. Ah, Konan, you've returned. Mei sighed. Her time was over since she had no doubt Naruto was going to leave her to attend the other woman. She looked up to Konan and smiled. Naruto and I were discussing some personal things here, would you like to join us? Konan blinked, and then again. She tilted her head before opening her mouth to speak, but words refused to leave. End of chapter. I just couldn't think of a better end to the chapter than this one. The previous chapter dealt with Yugao and I've also given her plenty of time with Naruto. I thought it was only fair I give Mei some time with Naruto. The personality change shouldn't be a surprise to any of you. I've always said that Naruto would eventually smile a bit more often. You also can't forget that little talk with his mother. I couldn't think of anything that would make the transition easy other than the promise to his mother and having Kagaya's personality mixed with his own. Naruto also explained it better when talking to Mei, so I won't say anything more about it. From now on till I post the last chapter, I'll continue to deny of anything happening between Naruto and Samui. I'm saying this because there might be scenes that may paint a picture that looks like something is happening between them. Naruto isn't really worried about his left eye, he is more focused of regaining his stolen chakra and putting his body back to top shape. And no, he won't get Shisui's eye. I might have said he would get in those early chapters, but no, I won't give it to him. Yes, I did paint a picture of a manipulative Hagoromo. That isn't what I had in mind at the beginning, but I just thought, why not? Once the final piece of the puzzle is won with him, Naruto won't be vulnerable to anything. There are forces that are interfering. Also, Naruto should have recovered already. Samui made an observation of things in the darkness while she was at Naruto's throne room. I'll reveal bits about it in the next chapter. Madara isn't an Edo Tensei. I've to say, there were very sound reviews about the pairings. I do acknowledge I messed up some things. Well, things are already broken anyway, I mean with Yugao. From now on, I won't comment on it since I don't know how I may end it. Chapter 38 will be titled, The Omnipresent Sage, and it will be another chapter-long battle. Lig 9. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.